Good evening, everyone, and thank you for joining us today. We are the Distinguished Black Gentlemen Show. I am your host, RJ Mack, and we are going live on Blog Talk Radio. We're also live on Facebook. We're live on YouTube. Thank you to everyone who's joining us tonight. If you're live on Facebook, go ahead and hit that thumbs up button for us. Hit that like button and hit that share button. Share it with your friends. We got a good one tonight. We're going to be discussing mental health in the Black community. We're also going to be talking about veterans and mainly focus on veterans, women in the military, and veterans, how they have to deal with sexual assault and sexual harassment, and how they have to deal with it mentally when they're in and when they get out. We're also going to finish up our subject that we started with, the protecting of Black women by Black men. We have 3 women on the show, so we're going to let them speak and let them tell what their thoughts on it. And then we're going to finish it off with the moderator's rant. Like I said, thank you all for joining us again. If you're on, go ahead and throw your name in the chat. Let us know where you're from, and go ahead and hit that likes and thumbs up button. We're going to go ahead and get started real quick. We're going to do the current events. That's when we go over some of the events that's been going on over the week. And then I'll announce our guest. Let me go ahead and do that right now. I think we should go ahead and announce our guest first. So we're going to bring on, so today, let me get this up real quick. All right, everyone. So we thought it'll be the best thing for us to bring some professionals on. None of us are professionals. We're not mental health experts. So it'll be best for us to bring some people who have experience in this. So we're bringing in Kimberly Bailey, and she served 4 years in the U.S. Army. She's got a lot of experience in the mental health field. So we brought her on to help us out. We also brought my girl Amber Couch in. She's a master of social work, qualified mental health professional. She's also served in the U.S. Marine Corps. And so she can give us some good help and give us some advice, and also help us move this show along, because we don't really know. We're just giving our just regular opinion. And we also have Ashley Stewart on the show. She's a licensed clinical social worker. She runs her own business. That's Crazy Mental Health. She has a lot of different ways and different approaches. So we're going to hear her input too. And so I'm glad that they decided to join us today. So let's go ahead and get started on our current events, because there's been some crazy stuff going on. All right, I'm gonna go ahead and share my screen with y'all. Sorry that took so long. So, as we say, the Distinguished Black Gentlemen Show. So we're gonna do a COVID-19 update, just to let everybody know what's been going on with COVID-19. A lot of states are still shutting down or re-shutting down. They stopped their opening up because the spread has jumped up. Last week we reported what the total number of cases were. This week we'll just give you an update for what the CDC.gov said on the latest update, July 2nd. So the total cases is 2 million, over 2 million. It's went up about 300,000, a little bit more. So we got new cases about 54,000, total death 128,000, and new deaths is 725,000. So like I said, Florida on Thursday reported that 10,000 new cases of COVID-19, the disease caused by the novel coronavirus, making a new single day record for the state, which reported 6,500 cases on Wednesday. There were 68 new deaths for a total of 3,700 cases, July 2nd at 4:30 p.m. from the Washington Post. So coronavirus is still out there, everyone. You could think it's made up. You could think it's something that the government is putting up against us, but I advise you be safe, my people. Don't go out if you don't really need to, and avoid those large gatherings, and get your PPE gear too. If you're going to go out, don't worry about it. Just wear a mask. It ain't that big of a deal. All right. And this is another one. So with this update, the former 2012 Republican presidential candidate Herman Cain is receiving treatment for coronavirus at an Atlanta area hospital, according to STA. Wednesday, after he had development systems serious enough that he required hospitalization, Cain this is what a lot of people saying. Like a lot of rumor mills are saying that Kane got it because he went to the President Donald Trump's um, rally in Tulsa. He was the co-chair. But what his people put on his post was, we honestly have no idea where he contracted it. I realize people will speculate about the Tulsa rally, but Herman did a lot of traveling the past week, including to Arizona, where cases are spiking. I don't think there's any way to trace this to one specific contact that caused him to be infected. We'll never know. And that was reported by Veronica at CNN today. So she's actually right. I mean, as much as we want to say that he got it from the Trump rally, we don't know. So we did want to talk more because we've been following this case on IAmVanessaGiullen. The remains of found in a shallow grave along the Leon River. They have not yet been confirmed to be those of missing of her. So that's the last update I saw. If anybody else saw any new updates, because they've been dropping different places all the time. So they did have a suspect, specialist Aaron David Robinson, and what he did was he killed himself. Once the cops came up to him, he took the Caraway out, and whatever, I will be burned in hell. So you got a lady by the name of Cicely Alleguera. She's 22, of Killian. She's an estranged wife of a soldier. She was detained, but she hasn't been charged yet. She's just a suspect. Investigators came out with something in this article, and they said that how the investigator has not found any connections between the sexual harassment and Vanessa's disappearance. That's really hard for me to believe. However, all sexual harassment allegations are being investigated in this case. They are every other instance, because sexual harassment is categorically adverse to our Army values. Okay. And that came from Channel 10 KWTX in Texas. All right, we're going to talk about this case a little bit more throughout the show. It's going to be a part of this because we are going to be talking about women in the military, either active duty or veterans, and how they have to deal with sexual harassment and sexual assault, especially the mental toll it can take on them, and how they can get help and overcome some of those issues that they develop from it. So we did, me and Courtney did a quick live on Elijah McClain. The death, Elijah was killed last year in August by cops. He was just walking back from the store, and he got choked, and he died later on from the complications from being choked by the cops. This is what, so one of the cops in Aurora, in Colorado, he decided that it would be a good idea to go take some pictures depicting the choking, and it was kind of done in such a way that it was like he was mocking it. So he was put on administrative leave earlier, but now they're saying that he resigned. This is the Aurora police in response to the inquiries by the press. Jaron Jones, hired on October 31st, 2016, tendered his resignation. Jones was one of the employees involved in and depicted in the photograph investigation related to Elijah McClain. We will continue to update with developments as we proceed. There hasn't really been too much updates on this case, particularly. The DA was still refusing to bring up charges, but we'll keep following us on this murder of this young man. He was only 23 years old. Me and Courtney watched the video, and if you watch the video and you don't get affected by that, then I don't know what to tell you, homie. You the devil. All right. So just to give you a little bit of financial news from Yahoo Finance. Stocks jumped after June jobs data smashed expectations. So because investors, they were happy today because the U.S. economy created nearly 5 million jobs last month during this pandemic. But investors saw a rise in the economy as regions across the country ease social distancing restrictions and allow more businesses to reopen. But as we can see, that ain't gonna last that long, because these states are starting to shut back down, and they're putting restrictions. Like I think Texas put a restriction that bars can't even sell alcohol. So who's gonna really go to a bar that don't sell alcohol? Investors shrugged off reports, although new unemployment insurance claims were higher than expectations. So they may have made 5 million jobs, but they still got people losing their jobs and filing for unemployment. Or some of these people may have been getting jobs, but they're not good enough to cover their expenses, so they still need to file for unemployment. The S&P rose 500 rose about 0.5% on Thursday to cap off an advance of 4% since the market closed last Friday. The Dow rose 4.6%, while the Nasdaq rose 3.25% on the week. So that was reported by Yahoo. You can go check that out, Yahoo Finance, and see and follow the updates. So we are done with that, and I think I got done with that at a pretty good time. Yeah. So we're going to stop sharing my screen soon. And so now it is time that we move on to our main topic. They confirmed through her. That's what Candace said. Let me say Cornell social work doc student. Thank you for joining us, Caldwell. We appreciate it. It's time to move on to the main topic. We can bring on our guests, and I'm just gonna give them some time to get ready because we're about to bring them on. I'm gonna bring on all three ladies at the same time. We're very excited to have them on. I'm really glad that they accepted it. Here we go. Bring them on. Hi, ladies.
Hey.
Can y'all hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
Everybody's good. Thank you. Thank you for
muted.
joining us today.
I'm here.
I wanted to bring you on first, and what I'm going. Yeah, we can hear you. All right, so I think
can't hear you guys.
You can't hear me? Can y'all hear?
I can hear you.
I can hear everyone.
Okay. Is it Ashley that can't hear?
You can hear me too, Amber?
I can hear you, Ashley.
Okay.
All right. Now that we got the mic check.
I can't hear you, Ron.
You really can't? Oh. Everybody else. I don't know what to say.
Are you using that MacBook?
No.
No, I switched to my phone. Also Apple, so.
All right. I'll start off announcing since
I got off the computer.
We'll see once Ashley says she can actually hear me. Hopefully she can hear me soon. So we'll start off with you, Kimberly.
Okay, someone told me to leave and join again. I'm going to try that.
Yeah.
Okay. It's all good. All right, we're going to start with you, Kimberly. How you doing today?
I am doing okay. I mean, it's been a rough day. I'm not going to lie. I hold space for a lot of female veterans, and this has just been a really, really difficult day today. Yeah.
Yeah, I can understand that. This, I know it can be triggering to hear. You know, you see it all in the news, and you know, like you guys told us on the phone. I mean, we were shocked when y'all told us what y'all told us on the phone, and we're going to bring that up later. So we know it can be triggering to hear all of this and see all of this, and we'll go over too. Did you read the Twitter article? The article about Twitter about the ladies coming out and sharing their stories?
Well, I've been kind of in the middle of all of that, so I didn't read it. I've actually been disengaging from a lot of the social media content and news today because it's been a lot to take on for me, because I'm also a survivor, but I'm also someone who holds space for other people. So it's put. I think it's put. I know, Amber, you're also a veteran too, so I think it puts us in like a really complicated space. Being that I empathize and I understand because I've been there, and then also to hold space for others, as well as dealing with our own feelings behind all of this. So it's a tough space to be a mental health clinician or someone who holds space for people.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I know we want to go over you. I know that's your specialty. You want to go ahead and because I gave the basic rundown of your background of you of your service and stuff. Do you want to give us an answer why you chose to do what you do? Because you were a combat medic while you served, right?
Yeah, I was a medic. Yeah.
And so now you're into the mental health field, and I didn't get if you had any licenses or anything. So can you tell us if you have any licenses? Your license in here?
I know you listed me as the LCSW. I'm like, oh, maybe we should take that off. I'm actually not licensed. I have my MSW, but I actually work right now as a diversity and inclusion like program developer and trainer, and I also do like sexual harassment prevention program development, and I do all kinds. I do civil rights stuff right now. So, but on the side, but volunteer wise, I do a lot of some supportive stuff with female veterans. Like I work in the Veterans Treatment Court, and I run my own personal peer support group, and then I have my Invisible Combat page that I run. So
Okay. Yeah, Kim has a podcast and a blog. Go ahead and give out your address and your blog and what time your blog. Or she actually has a blog tonight, right? At 9:30.
Well, we
yes.
pre-record, so we record and then we release. So we release every Wednesday,
Okay.
but I have a podcast too. Yeah, so I do podcasting and I do like blog content on my Facebook and Instagram page. The Instagram and Facebook is Invisible Combat, and then my podcast is called Shiro Hotline, and we talk a lot about first responder and military mental health. So it's kind of like a wide variety of topics.
All right. So I know you got a lot to give tonight, and we're looking forward to hear from you, Kim. We'll give you a chance, at least if you. Hopefully, you can get to vent and get it all out, and maybe get you some sleep tonight, because I heard I heard you. So we're gonna move over to my girl Amber. Amber's my homie. Me and Amber served together in 9th Com in Pendleton. She's the sweetest thing you'll know. I'm not really surprised at the field she chose. Amber, you want to go ahead and give us, because I didn't get too much information. I did give everybody what your licenses are and what you're certified in, but did you want to give any information about what you do? Like what is your experience?
Can you hear me good?
Yes.
Okay. Hey, so I have, like Rod said, I have my master's in social work, and my license is qualified mental health professional, and I'm also enrolled in my PhD program, specializing in human behavior. My population of choice right now that I'm working with, that I absolutely love, is geriatric population. So I tend to work with mentally ill that are 60 and up, and with major diagnoses from borderline personality disorders, schizophrenia, schizoaffective disorder. And yeah, I served 4 years in the Marine Corps. I too am also a survivor of military sexual trauma that I experienced the first 2 years while I was active duty. And everything going on with Vanessa and seeing all the Twitter reports and the repost of what's currently happening in the media has been very triggering. I was talking to one of my good friends today about it, and just feeling really heavy with the current events that's going on, and empathizing with my sisters in service, as well as just being a trauma survivor as well, and being a mom of a 20-year-old. And I know PFC Gullen was 20 years old. And so just like a lot of emotions going on today with the discovery of her remains.
Yeah.
So that's a little bit about me. I hope I covered the important
Yeah,
things.
you did a great job. Thank you so much. I just want to, before I go to Ashley, I want to remind everybody that we are on Blog Talk Radio. We do have a guest call-in line. You can call in and listen to the show, or you can call in and talk to us. We'll be taking calls in probably about 10-15 minutes. The number is 845-277-9427. Yeah, please call us and join in the conversation. If you're on Facebook or you're on YouTube, I can see your comments go across the screen. Go ahead and join in, add in, please. This is an interactive show. All right, Ashley, you can hear me now.
I can.
Okay. Kind of scared me for a second. I was like, no, really? No. All right, Ashley. Like I said, I gave a brief overview of what you do and what you are. Can you give us real quick your why? Why did you choose to go into this field, into the mental health field, and why did you choose to start your own clinic too, or your own business?
Okay. So like your brief interview, my name's Ashley Stewart. I'm a licensed clinical social worker. I started that crazy because I recognized, Maria, that there was not a lot of representation for the minority community in the mental health field. I've always had a love for people, always loved helping people. And I started off actually wanting to just be a social worker and run a nonprofit. And I got in and I was like, wait, this is not enough power. I need a little bit more under my belt to be able to really effectively make change. And so that's why I decided to go this route. I started That's Crazy because I really wanted to redefine how people view mental health in the minority community. I know we're going to get into this later, but the stigma was just really discouraging to constantly see. I felt like there needed to be space made for us to be able to express how we feel. And, you know, there's a lot of valid reasons why the stigma is still here. And so I really wanted to change a lot of the conversations that's had in our community. And so, and really the therapeutic experience. And that's why.
Yes. And I
Did I
read
answer all
that
your
on your page.
questions? I think.
Yes, you did. And
Okay.
if anybody noticed, I did
Okay.
put that on the page. This is a part of Ashley's why statement, mission statement is impractical and senseless, as senseless are explanations of the word crazy. And like the definition, our name not only represents our passion, but our perception of the stigma surrounding it. Now that's so crazy. That's awesome. That's only half of it though. She has a really awesome mission statement. I like that. You explained it very well.
Thank you.
And then you can visit her on www.that'scrazymentalhealth.com. And she's also on Instagram, That's Crazy Mental Health. All right. Now that thank you ladies for being here one more time. I'm going to keep thanking you because I'm really excited about this. I'm glad we've been trying to get some women to join us, but they've been shying away from us. Like, we don't bite. All right. And I'm going to show you that we don't bite because I'm about to bring the boys on. We're going to bring on my boy Courtney first. What up, Courtney? Coming from us from Texas. We got boy at one, young man, the cop that everybody keep complaining about or cheering on. He got half and half. He got the people complaining about. He got people cheering him on at the same time. We got our brother from down under, Angel, in the house, and we got Stu in the suit. What?
Fresh and clean.
That boy came clean.
I got a lot of feedback, man. They said I need to represent, man. So I had to put some clothes on this time.
Is that velvet?
Hey, this is corduroy, bro.
It's not a fire.
Angel about to go do a show. Came out looking like David Ruffin. All right, y'all. Thank you for being here, man. I'm really happy, brothers. I'm happy to see y'all all the time. We talk all the time. These are my brothers, and just to give you a background, this is how we started the show. We started off as just most of us served together. Most of us knew each other from the military, but the rest of us we came as a collective. And on Facebook, we started a little Facebook chat group, and we just talk in there. We just share things with each other. We've been there through each other for the hard times. I mean, it's been several years that we've been doing this for, and some of the conversations we have, we get a little heated or we start talking trash, but they're great conversations. So we thought we'll just bring this out to the world for you guys to see and for you to join the conversation. And so far, people have given us good response. So I think we are doing a good thing. So we're going to go ahead and move on into our main subject real quick. Did everybody get the article, see the articles, read the articles? Yes, no, maybe so.
Yeah,
I got both articles. I got some notes. So
yeah, some notes. What did y'all think about them? Was it worth noting? Worth talking about?
Yeah,
okay.
One of them was good.
The study was a little iffy. The stats on the study was a little iffy. I think some people.
That's why I wanted to talk about that study. I wanted to get everybody's input on that study because I saw it and I was like, hey, we may need to. This is a good one. Nomni is actually I know the ladies. Are y'all familiar with Nomni? Yeah, Nomni is a pretty well-known organization within the mental health. That's where they give out a lot of the like you go there and when they give you the handout, it comes from Nomni. So that's why I kind of looked at that and was like, maybe this is interesting to talk about. So we'll see. We're gonna start off with, if you clicking, please go on mute.
Who is clicking?
Yes, it's Stu, Mr. Extra.
No, he on mute.
I'm messing with him. Who is clicking though? I'm gonna put each one of y'all on mute to see. It's Ashley. No, it's Amber. There we go. There we go. See, I play any, meeny, miny, mo.
Uh,
Trying to take Kim off. Kim, are you on by yourself?
Yeah, I muted myself. I mean, I have children,
Right.
so I just want to make sure that they don't come running. I'm in my closet. This is my
Okay.
little podcasting station, but they're loud sometimes.
No.
So.
That's cool.
It's all good. We're all parents. We all know. We all know. Trust me.
I'm hearing a
All
lot
right.
of
So we're
static. Are you guys hearing a lot of static?
not on my end. All right. So we're going into the mental health in the Black
Not
community.
anymore.
Like I said, we were going ahead and we were referencing. If you got the invite, then you know the articles that we were referencing. So I just took a few little pointers out of it. We're just going to talk about these. Just a few people. We're going to get their input on it. I thought this was interesting when it said, according to the Health and Human Services Office of Minority Health. Okay, hold on. We're gonna have to go back here to my screen. There we go. There we go. Okay. My bad. Had to mute that. According to the Health and Human Services Offices of Minority Health, Black adults in the U.S. are more likely than white adults to report persistent symptoms of emotional distress, such as sadness, hopelessness, and feeling like everything is an effort. Black adults living below the poverty line are more than twice as likely to report serious psychological distress than those living above it. So, I mean, does it mean money makes you more happier, or is it the fact that these people with money can afford the mental health? That is a question that I have to ask, and I am going to go ahead and let our guest Amber, you go ahead and answer that. Like, did you hear what the red? Can you see? Can you see it?
I can see.
Okay, so
Can you guys
I,
hear me okay?
yeah, I got one
Uh-huh.
question. I got a question for you at the top. You see how it talks about blacks or more black adults in the US are more likely than white adults to report persistent symptoms of emotional distress. Do you what do you think contributes to that? Do you think it's racism? Do you think it's racism on top of the world? What can you give a little bit more input on that?
Yeah, so I definitely think it's the negative stigma surrounding mental health in the Black community. In the article, it referenced that I think a lot of times in the Black community, we pride ourselves on being strong, being resilient in the face of oppression and racism. And so that when you start to have a breakdown mentally, people don't really know how to justify that. We're not realizing that there is a such thing as being physically strong and mentally strong. Just like if you want to be stronger and healthier, you go to the gym, you eat proper foods. If you want to be stronger mentally, you're going to make sure you're resting, seeing your therapist, doing self-care techniques, as well as, so that's one, the stigma, and then as well as access to care, the quality of care that's being rendered, and unconscious and conscious biasness that we often see with providers that is a deterrence for Black men and women to seek professional.
Okay, so I'm glad you got it out right before you went out. Did you finish?
What was that?
Did you finish?
No, I had a call come in.
Oh, okay.
No, can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you now.
Oh, okay. And what I was going to say was, the unconscious and conscious biasness that we a lot of times see in providers, as well as I think Ashley had mentioned it about not really having a lot of Black mental health clinicians. And so many times that when some of the people I provide therapy to or case management to, when they see me come into the lobby and I look like them or I talk like them, it's like immediately like a wall comes down and you can see it. And that's with all ages. I specialize in 60 and up, but I have a wide range of clients. And so many times they're just like, I'm so happy that I'm talking to a Black woman or a Black person, or I feel like you're understanding where I'm coming from, because not to take away from my colleagues or my counterparts that are not of color, but people really want to see a representation of themselves when they're doing things. It's like, I'm not going to want to listen to a person that's already rich talk to me about getting money and being rich. I want to see the person that's come from my head, from my place, and seeing how they made it. and what I can do versus someone that's kind of already self-made. I feel like it's the same thing when it comes to race. They want to see someone that looks like them heading in the direction that they want to go. So I hope that answered the question.
It fully answered the question. Thank you. We're gonna let one of the brothers go ahead and chime in. I know Stu is pretty good in this subject. He loves the mental health subject.
Yeah.
Stu, same questions. Same questions. What do you think is the main reason why you think more Black people are reporting these issues with mental health than white people?
All right, so I do agree with Amber. She touched on some things that I wanted to touch on. I wanted to share a stat. So we all know economics is the root, to a lot of issues. You don't have the resources to afford, mental health, the therapists, and the care. So I just want to give this stat. I want to put this out for the group. We have a lot of programs in the United States. We pour a lot of money into the Black communities in inner cities. But I was looking at stats on this website. 40% of all Black Americans live in the Deep South. Mississippi, Alabama, Louisiana, Georgia, South Carolina, North Carolina. That doesn't even name all the southern states. Just the Deep South, almost 50% of all Black people live in states that are impoverished. So at some point, we would have to pour money into the Deep South, into these states where Black people live. So, I think we're not addressing that issue as well. So if 50% of the Black people live in those 5, 6 states, we have to do something different. And I think it all goes back to economics. We have to put money and resources into these communities where they need them the most. That's all I have to say about that.
Okay. I think you kind of you and Amber both answered the kind of went into what the next slide is going to go into. So it does talk about what you said, and that's part of the reason why we are having the Black community does have an issue with getting services, or we actually going out and get services. So it says, according to the American Psychiatry Association, mental health facts for African American guys, African Americans are less likely to receive guidelines, consistent care, less frequently included in research, more likely to use emergency rooms or primary care rather than a mental health specialist. So I'm gonna go ahead and ask Ashley. Is she on? Ashley, if you can tell me, what do you think we can do to improve some of these things? Like, what can we do to improve getting more guidelines into the Black community, getting more research done in the Black community, stopping Black communities? Because I'm guessing if they're saying emergency rooms and primary care, that means they're breaking down and they're seeking help like immediately. So can you give do you have any resources, or do you have any plans, or do you think what you can come up with? Did she disappear? Oh, she went away. All right, I'll send that to you then, Kim. What do you think that we can do to improve these issues in the Black community when it comes down to mental health?
And I totally agree with everything that Amber said when it comes to lack of representation. And I think a lot of it comes to like preventative care. I know I did a lot of work in this school as a school social worker, and we did a lot of like trauma-informed care and psychoeducation. And I think it starts, fairly young. With some of the kiddos that I worked with, they had so many different stressors coming from within the home. So I think just psychoeducation and really helping them understand trauma and things like that, because it does disproportionately affect communities of color at a much higher rate than it does other communities. So yeah, I mean, I don't necessarily work specifically with that community anymore, so I don't have a lot of resources, so to speak, for that. I think maybe Ashley or Amber might be better suited to provide resources there. Yeah.
No, I like what you said. Actually, including it in the education system is, I think, is a big part of that. So it'll definitely help out. Angel, I'm gonna go ahead and throw you in here, player. What do you think can be done to spread the word and get more consistency in the Black community for mental health?
For the most part, the perception and the culture needs to be changed. I think by having maybe community centers geared toward mental health itself in the communities, maybe even under a different name, so they're not thinking that they're going to go see a head doctor, right? Would help a lot. It is frowned upon, as you all know, growing up in these communities, that, you know, you're weak if you go, you're crazy if you go, you don't need that, that's white people shit. You know, we've heard all these things. Or the one that I love the most, just go to church. Rely on God. You hear that a lot. Yo, you just need to go to church, pay your tithes, and you're gonna be straight. But that's not it, because people have to understand, and I think with a lot of people who didn't come up in those communities, that environment is toxic, very toxic. And the thing is, you don't know it's toxic because you were born in it, you were raised in it, you operate in it. So it became normalized. And you don't really realize until you move out of it. Not visit somewhere, but actually move out of it and live somewhere and see how other people interact and deal with certain situations. You know, so kind of exposing them to the outside world, you know, for lack of a better term, to show them that, okay, this is how people normally live, you know, as far as like react to things. But again, you have to be very careful with that, because then you go back to economics. It's not like they can help the economic situation in their community, but it's definitely a huge factor when you're considering the amount of trauma they're dealing with. You know, people hear trauma, they think it's all about like somebody hitting them, sexual abuse, like that. But it's everything. It's the those factors around you. Like me as a child, going to sleep to gunshots and police sirens and helicopters, and it was normal. So when I went to go visit some family members, like in the country, and I didn't hear it, it made me nervous. I couldn't sleep. I had anxiety. I felt out of place, and I wanted to go back to the toxic environment because I was so used to it. Right? I felt more comfortable there. But it wasn't until I stayed there and visited more and more times, like, wait, people don't have the same amount of anxiety or fears or anything like that that I do, you know. So we have to try to, and maybe those centers can be that safe space, even for a little while, you know. And I think that would help. So, you know, like Stu was saying, we need that economic push, because we can't have those centers and pay those actors without that money being poured into our communities. And so people have to realize our community is worth that, you know, for them to pour that money into our communities to see anything change and grow.
You mute.
Sorry, didn't want y'all to hear any feedback crap. Okay, great input, brother. I do appreciate that. Yeah, we did. There is. So when I shared that study with everyone, that study went into some of what you were just saying. So I'm gonna bring that up real quick. We're gonna move into that because everybody said something about it. So that was kind of funny to me. I didn't think y'all was gonna catch it like that.
About the religion.
Yeah, that made me laugh. Hold up. I'm going to share my screen with you, and we're going to look at the internet. Okay. So this is another NAMI NBC study. They did this study just specifically on African American men and women attitudes towards mental illness, perception of stigma, and preferred coping behaviors. They pretty much said it's to examine African American beliefs about mental illness, attitudes towards seeking mental health and services, preferred coping behaviors, and whether these variables differ by gender and age. So they're pretty much trying to see if it difference between black men and black women, and because through age. So an exploratory cross-sectional survey design was used. Participants were 272 community dwelling African American aged 25 through 72. Data analyzed include descriptive statistics and general linear regression models. So these are the results. Depression was the most common mental health illness, and there were no gender differences in prevalence. Both men and women believed they knew some of the symptoms and causal factors of mental illness. Their attitudes suggested that they are not very open to acknowledging psychological problems, are very concerned about stigma associated with mental illness, and are somewhat open to seeking mental health services, but they prefer religious coping. Significant gender and age differences were evident in attitudes and preferred coping. So they pretty much said from their study, from their little 272 survey, that there's really no big difference between black men and black women on how they perceive mental health, how they approach it, what's the main illness that they're reporting. And the crazy part that caught me was they said that everybody knows they have it, but nobody's seeking any help. Courtney, you kind of said some things about the article. What did you see about the article that you agree with, and what you found that you didn't agree with?
Well, I was looking at the numbers, and it said black women showed a prevalence of 13.1%, whereas black men showed a prevalence of 7%. I can understand the added pressures, but I think a lot of black men are lying to themselves. I think a lot of people are just thinking they're going to shake out of it. A lot of people just don't want to have the stigma. A lot of people don't want to have this conversation, but it's important that we have it, because at 7%, and from talking to the people that are in our group chat, the brothers in our group chat, I know all of us have suffered from it at one point in time. So there's no way it's just 7% of black men going through this throughout any given year. I think so. I think that element themselves are lying to themselves. Other than that, the religion as a coping mechanism stuck out to me. I think Stu has brought this up in conversation a lot of times. People just want to pray stuff away, and that's not how this works. That's not ever going to be how this works. You have to go out there. You have to seek help. You have to take charge of it, because if you just let it sit there and you let it fester, it's just going to get worse and worse and worse, and eventually you never know what it can lead to. So it's just something that I think we need to take more seriously in the community. As far as thinking about things that we could do in place of that, I know just as we are the generation of parents coming up, we were raised a certain way, and we have to realize that some of the things that we were taught just aren't the right way to do it. And I know a lot of people tell their kids, I went through it, so you need to go through it too, or whatever, but that's not how, we should be paving the way for them to adjust easier to their transition to adulthood. So I think we as the parents, the older generation bringing up the newer generation, we need to pass that message down. That's about all I got from it.
That's good, man.
Yeah, that was good, man. Thank you. Did Ashley drop off? Okay, Ashley, did you hear the whole? Did you hear the whole study and everything that was said?
I heard a majority. Yeah.
Okay. Did you hear anything that caught your attention that you agree with and you don't agree with, and that you want to add or elaborate on?
Sure. I agreed with a lot of what everyone has said. For me, these studies are a lot of times difficult to really just honestly believe, because I don't really know the credibility of them. And it's hard for me being in the field and seeing how many people actually report. I just think the numbers are skewed, because most people aren't coming to seek help. So how do you really truly capture the numbers correctly? I do want to speak to the spirituality aspect, because that's part of my mission, and that's crazy, is to kind of go and change the conversations that are being had in some of these difficult places. One of those places being church. In therapy, our main goal is really to meet people where they are. And I think a lot of times we, in our communities, try to rush to make certain changes, and we can't really do that. We have to be really person-centered, because therapy is that type of process. It really is a journey. But I think people have gone to the church because historically, that's what, number one, they can afford to do. Number two, that's what we've depended on as a culture to get through some of the hard times, and just a lack of education. I do hear all the time that just pray it away. God can fix it. And a lot of what I do when I talk to people who are spiritual is get them to understand you don't have to pick one, because I think that that is what people really believe. If I have God, then I don't need anything else. Well, didn't God create, people? Are you supposed to connect? And I try to even myself reference some scripture in that same Bible that people bring to me about renewing their mind, about controlling their thinking, try to kind of match it, because the goal is not to just, do away with that part, because spiritual being is a part of the mind. But the goal is to challenge and restructure some of the thinking patterns behind it that lead to unhealthy behavior and emotions.
Yeah, correct. I was talking to my mom. My mom is Southern from Mississippi, Baptist. And meditation is the devil.
Yeah.
Like, meditation
And
is
yoga.
the devil.
And yoga's
It
the
comes from
devil.
yoga.
Yeah.
It's the devil. And I'm like, no, it's not, Mom.
No.
Other than that,
Yeah.
it's the devil. So yeah, you're right. You gotta wipe. It's hard to get some of these old traditions and old sayings out, but you gotta meet them
And
where
I
they are.
challenge people with that. I challenge people, okay, meditation's the devil, but even Jesus was in solitude multiple times, and that's in the Bible. So it's, yeah, I could go on for days about this, but and I won't. So but
He
yeah,
was
it's
talking to his
really
daddy though.
challenging, right, it's really about challenging the stigma.
One, we ain't heard from you yet, brother. Thank you, Ashley. One, we ain't heard from
You're
you yet,
welcome.
brother. Did you want to add something to this?
Yeah, I'll make it quick. Just like all they're saying about the whole, I think she hit the nail on the head as far as in like people trying to say it's one or the other. God helps those that help themselves. So, I mean, you can still be religious or spiritual or however you want to call it, but there's nothing stopping you from going to get help. If you don't know how to handle it yourself, go ask somebody who knows how to handle it. Go see a specialist. There's no shame in that. The other thing is, as far as in the numbers and whatnot, for the last 15, 20 years, America's constantly been defunding the mental hospitals, the mental institutions and stuff like that. If you remember back in the 50s, 60s, even the 40s or so, they actually had mental institutions. They would send people that for one reason or another, through biological or through chemical imbalance or whatever it was, that just weren't quite right in the head there. But they started closing them down because of the abuse epidemic that was going on there and stuff like that. But a lot of times working the streets, homeless people, a lot of them are homeless because they have mental instabilities or they have addictions. And I think if there was actually a place they could go that wasn't just a capture and release, like, okay, yeah, whatever, get you out the door as quick as we can. If there was actually a place they could go to talk to a professional and actually seek honest treatment, a lot of them would be a lot better and we wouldn't have the homeless problem that we have nowadays. Because most of them, they're either hooked on drugs, they have a mental instability that just family and friends are tired of dealing with, so they put them out because they don't recognize it as a mental instability or a mental deficit, should I say, too, that as well. So, I mean, it's one of those things where I think, in all honesty, if you have a problem, you need to seek help as fast as you can before it gets too big for you to handle. Because unfortunately, suicide is the end result of mental instability that just goes untreated for so many years. A lot of times people just can't handle it anymore, so they figure they're better off dead, which is totally the wrong answer.
Okay. Yeah, you hit a nice point on the homeless issue. Well, there are a lot of homeless that are mentally ill. So we do need to, that's why we do this show, so we can try to inspire people to start extra services to help those, especially the ones that are, because I mean, they did say in the study that, I mean, one thing we all can agree on too, we talk about the religion, but we talk about economic has a impact on this. People can't, because I've seen psychiatrists, civilian ones and civilian mental therapists. Y'all ain't cheap. Even with insurance, y'all ain't cheap. Them copays come in, and so yeah, I can understand how that can affect you. Did anyone else want to say something about that before we move on to another subject? I mean, one thing we all can agree on too. I guess I'm saying something again.
What you say?
I was just saying if anybody else had anything to say about this study before we move on, because we can move on to the next subject if you don't.
Go ahead.
What's up?
Go ahead.
Cool. So the topic of the last month and what Kimberly really touched on has been affecting a lot of people. It affects people like me too, because like Amber can tell you, one thing about my military career, I started off in an infantry unit and an infantry regiment. So my first 4 years, I had no females. I mean, my first few years in the Marine Corps, I had no females, except for comm school. Short portion of comm school, I was with women, but I went to San Diego, so there was no women in San Diego boot camp. And then I went to the infantry unit. I spent 4 years there. The first unit I went to that had women was Antonio's. Man, Antonio was CSSG. I was scared shitless because you hear stuff. And I was married at the time too, so I was scared shitless. So I really tried to keep some type of separation. But night comm was the first time I really started making friends that was women. And so when I hear these stories, some of them I hear them, and I'm like, why didn't I hear anything about this? Like, you didn't even say anything to me while we was in. And I had a friend who told me about her being assaulted, where dudes assaulted her, and they taped it. So it's crazy stuff that goes on in the military. I'm going to go ahead and show you the next screen. The next screen is going to go over a dailymail.com article where a lot of women took to Twitter over the last couple of weeks, and they've been sharing their stories. So what it is, we are the faces of the military sexual trauma and assault. Women in the Army share their own stories of sexual harassment and assault, and saying IAmVanessaGiullen after remains are found during the search. And some of their stories, man, did anybody go through the stories? Did anybody read any of these stories that were
I
shared?
read a lot of the stories, man. Kim actually invited me to a support group for Vanessa, and you know, a lot of women shared a lot of the stories. You know, it's pretty deep, man.
The one that got me was the 17-year-old that got off the plane, and the NCO kept her behind while everybody else went on and I guess loaded and headed to base. And he told her that he could make her time in AIT more enjoyable. I was like, what? And then she turned it in and nothing happened. So I was like,
yeah. So I heard about a story that really touched me because I was in the Marine Corps and I saw similar stuff like this, but I was young. It was a young lady. She had a boyfriend when she came into the unit for the fleet, but the staff NCO in charge was jealous of their relationship. So she actually treated the boyfriend like crap, you know, and started preying on her, trying to split them up, making sexual innuendos. They had a public outing with the unit at the beach. She said she was swimming around. She looked up. A bunch of guys was in lawn chairs watching her swim. You know, all kind of stuff, man. It was deep. So they ended up charging her, harassing her, making comments, so she ended up getting out, man. It was pretty bad though. You know, and I saw similar stuff like that went down. It was, you know, it's crazy.
All right, thanks, man. Yeah, we hear those stories, bro, and it kind of the thing I always say to myself, man, I was young, but then at the same sense, it's like, was that really an excuse? But I not gonna lie, I came from Jackson, Mississippi, off the streets of Jackson, Mississippi, and things weren't really no much better when it came down to that. So some of that stuff I was kind of used to already seeing.
Well, for me, Rod, if I can speak one more time, you know, when I say I was young, your mind is not trained to look for indicators and red flags.
Right.
It's not. So you'll see someone probably, you know, being flirted with or something like that. But as a young man, you're not really trained to look for red flags for harassment. You're not trained to look for someone who's been assaulted. You know, the mental health is changing, you know, stuff like that. So you don't really understand what to look for. Now, as a mature man now, I can pick it up right away. Something's wrong, something's going on. You know, it's a predator, you know, get that person help. So, you know, so that's what I meant by being young. You just not experience what to look for. Still not an excuse, but, you know.
To that too?
What's up?
I said I wanted to add something to what
Go
Stu
ahead.
had said.
Go ahead, Em.
So as far as being young and not trained at that, I feel like that's not really an excuse, and it kind of starts with the whole retraining and mental health, and starting with the young kids, letting them know mental health is okay. Also starting with your sons, letting them know the signs of what a predator is, abuser is. If you see someone that's suffering or, you know, being harassed or victimized, how to intervene, how to call for help. Because at a young age, those conversations are happening with girls on what to try to look for, what to try to avoid. Don't put yourself in these situations. Don't wear this clothes. Don't say this. Don't sit on this person's lap. Don't stare too long. And so I feel like we fail our sons and fail our daughters when we don't start having those conversations young. As I mentioned earlier, I have a 20-year-old son. And it broke my heart because I was having a conversation with him one day when he was probably about 16. And he said, "Oh, I feel like you talk to me like you think I'm going to be a rapist." And I said, "No, I talk to you as if I don't want you to be a rapist, even if it's not on purpose or it's not intentional, because you might be thinking one way and she might be thinking another way. And then all of a sudden, you know, it's a big thing where communication lines have gotten crossed." And so I've had those conversations with him at a young age of what to look for, even when his friends are acting a certain way, so that he can recognize it's not right and that he might have to be the person to intervene when he sees his friends are being knuckleheads towards a female. And even if she's laughing or acting like she's not nervous or whatever, to also recognize and realize that that type of behavior and that type of treatment is never okay. And you being young and not knowing is never going to come out your mouth, because I'm letting you know now. And I've been having those conversations with him probably since he was about 9 or 10 years old.
Wow. I absolutely agree with that, you know, and I hope I didn't come across a certain way when I said that. But
no, you didn't.
Okay. So I definitely agree with that. You know, I have my son is 13 now. I talk to him about all kind of stuff, same things, you know, respect for women, you know, and it does start when they're young. And I will say, growing up as a young boy, we're not taught that kind of stuff. We're taught to keep our hands to ourselves, but not into depth like a female would be taught as a young girl. So I do agree with that.
No. Yeah.
Can I jump in too?
Go ahead. Yes, ma'am.
I just want to say, yeah, I totally agree with Amber, because I have sons as well, and they're, you know, of color. Of course, I have Black sons. And I think having a conversation about condoms, like even with when we have the sex education in school, we talk about condoms. But I think the conversation about condoms without a conversation about consent is negligent, because we have to have those conversations about consent and what consent looks like, especially for our young men of color, because, you know, sometimes that happens, right? Where they don't understand boundaries, or if you haven't taught them healthy boundaries, that can get them in trouble. So I have conversations with my children, all of them, even my youngest. I think it starts as children. I have a 2-year-old and a 4-year-old, and I always have conversations about healthy boundaries with them. So consent conversations can look differently depending on the developmental, you know, space that your child is in. But I think it's really important to start even at a young age.
Yes, consent, and also knowing what coercion looks like as well. And saying, even if she's not saying no, or she told you no and you kept going and then she didn't say anything else, that's still not a yes.
Yeah.
And so many women have gone through with acts because they felt like that was going to be the lesser evil of the two if they continue to say no, or that they weren't interested and whatnot. And those conversations are sad. Like, it broke my heart because I'm looking at my son like, I don't want to talk to you like you'd be a rapist, but I mean, if I don't have these conversations with you now, I definitely don't want to be in front of an attorney and you're looking like, I didn't know. I couldn't tell.
You're having conversations with
So, and it's not even, and it's not even, I'm not having those conversations because he's a Black boy, but the fact that he's a young man. But the truth is that a lot of men do this or experience this, but the way that you're going to be treated in the justice system, even if you didn't realize what was happening, is going to be completely different than from your white counterparts. And that has been proven time and time and time again.
Yep. Let me ask you guys this. I hear a lot of the women saying that they talk to their kids. Do you think it'll be more powerful for men to be talking to the kids? Like, I'm not really trying to make it a gender role thing, but you know, sometimes when dad gets involved and it coming from dad, it seems to be a little bit more powerful and a little bit more sticking. Do y'all agree with that?
No, I think both. You need both sex, not just one or the other. Because
I'm not really saying just one. I'm really saying if the dads can step up and start having this talk with their kids. How many men on here are really having this talk with their sons? Well, Angel ain't got no. I forget, Angel ain't got no sons. Yeah, I mean, you do. I have this talk with my son, and I've done it at a young age because, like I told y'all on the meeting, things started for me at a very young age, and I saw a lot of things at a very young age. So to me, there is no such thing as they're going to be too young to do this.
Yeah.
You know, so yeah, I totally agree that we should start having these conversations with our kids. How do you feel like right now as a parent that you would agree with your daughter or your son joining the military right now in the current climate?
Absolutely not.
No,
That's a
No.
good
no.
question.
I
Angel,
think
why don't you give us a little bit
already,
more in depth reason, Angel, on why and what would you say to your daughter if she wanted to join the military, no matter what
So
branch?
my oldest daughter is 25.
Yeah.
And I would say probably about when she was about 19 or 20, she was kind of milling around with the idea of joining the service. And she came to me, of course, and said, "What do you think?" And I said, "You really want to do that? You know, like seeing what I've been through and everything. Do you really want to do that?" I said, "There's other avenues you could take, you know." And she was like, "But I think it'd be good to give me a good jump start." I said, "It could give you a good jump start. There's some things in there that I don't think that you're quite prepared for because she wanted to do the army, you know." And I was just like, "I don't think it'll be safe for you, you know." And she really couldn't like kind of wrap her head around what I was trying to say. And I just flat out said, "You get raped." Straight up, I told her, I said, "You get raped," you know. And she never spoke about it again.
Wow.
It's deep, bro.
Yeah, that is deep, man. I mean, I got a
you know,
daughter.
that's
What
straight to
about,
the point, though.
you know, most of us have sons. What do y'all say about y'all sons?
So for me, it's gonna sound bad when I say this. I'd be more open to my son going than my daughter. For that reason.
Let me bring up this comment real quick because somebody made a very good point. Candace made a good point. Sadly, it's not just the women service members. I do intensive outpatient therapy for service members with PTSD, and we have several males reporting to. Remember, we talked about this earlier. I think it was Times that dropped an article about the men, and those stories were pretty much just as crazy as they were getting it took him.
Yeah.
It wasn't no coercion or no.
We
It
had
was
it
like,
in
I'm
Germany.
gonna take this booty. That's
So,
what was happening to a lot of the men.
So, Rod, I have a stat. I actually looked this up before we came in. In 2018, they had a 50% spike in sexual assaults in the military. 13,000 more women and 7,500 more men. I wasn't going to mention the men because this show is about the female women, but you're right. The males are being assaulted as well. So I just want to put that out there.
I mean,
When
I
it
wanted
comes to sexual assault, it's not. Yes, it's more prevalent among females, but it's not. We don't ever discount the male counterparts that are being sexually abused or victimized. They're always included in that as well.
Absolutely. And I think sometimes the language gets misconstrued when we say she and her, often those pronouns, but it definitely does include males too. I mean, even with the IAmVanessaGiullen hashtag, a lot of male survivors are also using that hashtag as well to share their survival stories. And sometimes, a lot of times, it's like hazing or some sort of like that masculinity, and it's not really about female or male. It's usually about power.
Yeah.
And asserting that power over a vulnerable person. Especially, you see a lot of the hazing, like sodomy and stuff like that, that happens with the male soldiers. That was when they were drunk or when they were passed out or something like that. So, yeah,
We had that in Germany.
Yeah.
Like,
Guy passed out and he woke up and some guy was topping him off.
Yeah. I have a question. I have a question for the guests, for the professionals. Actually, I was in Germany when this happened. They had a huge influx of male service members who was being sexually assaulted by the priest and the chaplains because they confided in them. They was going through a lot of mental things. They confided in the chaplains and the priest, and they were taking advantage of a lot of them.
wow.
In
You
Lonsdale?
guys encounter that?
Was that in Lonsdale?
Huh?
Was that in Lonsdale?
Yeah. Yeah.
Dang. Bro, I don't remember a lot of them years, so yeah. Wow.
I remember that.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, you could say they confided in them. Them priests knew. A predator knows.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Yeah, and they didn't say anything because they were embarrassed. And it spanned our service. Yeah, Marines, Army. Everybody went to law school, right? Coming from downrange. and they confided it in, the chaplains and stuff, and they took advantage of it, man. So I just want to ask the professionals: do you get that a lot from when you do hear about males? Is it a lot of times a spiritual guidance type of person?
You mean as the perpetrator? Is that
Yeah,
what you're saying?
yeah,
Personally, I haven't come across a lot of survivors that have that happen. I mean, maybe when they're children, I think I've had some, because a lot of times service members can also have like, trauma or adverse childhood experiences or sexual abuse that happens when they're a child. And personally, I've heard more stories about that happening when they're younger than as a service member. But I don't know about you, Amber, if you've seen that.
No, I'm not knowledgeable in that field as much as I would like to be. I haven't heard the story that you were speaking of, Stu.
okay.
I just know the males that I know that had confided in me were just, it happened within their units from fellow Marines.
Yeah.
That,
Well, also too, so I just had a podcast about this. Actually, we just had a attorney who's a really good friend of mine who specializes in like military sexual trauma cases, and she was telling us stories about how a lot of males will say that females have sexually assaulted them as well. So it's not just male on male; it's also sometimes it happens that females assault a male, and oftentimes it's usually when they're drinking or when they have been drunk, and they didn't consent to it. And like Amber was saying, it just if you say no, if you don't consent, that also, could be construed as sexual assault.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. For the Kim, let me ask you a question for the women that are coming to you right now. What what kind of coping skills and things that you guys are suggesting with them to kind of help out with some of these triggering subjects that are coming up right now, especially with this
Yeah.
the last killing, because they're dropping article after article after article after article with all kinds of information. So what kind of things are you guys suggesting to women so they can actually help out with that, with, like I said, with their triggers and stuff like that?
Yeah, this whole conversation about Vanessa Guillen has been incredibly triggering for us as survivors. Even me, I can include myself, even being a professional or a mental health professional, a mental health background, I have to also like disengage from these conversations and know my boundaries. I think knowing your like healthy boundaries and when you're going to be triggered by a story. This story is, I mean, it is so tragic and so traumatic. And it has been incredibly activating for a lot of our sexual trauma survivors because they can see themselves in Vanessa, and also especially those of color, are my women of color that I work with or that I do peer support with. They can really see themselves in her story. So it has been incredibly activating. I think just finding ways to ground yourself, especially when you're being re-traumatized, because it's like a re-traumatization for a lot of our survivors, being put back into that moment where they weren't believed, where they were gaslighted, where they were invalidated, and retaliated against by command. It happens often. Finding ways to ground yourself. I know I'm going to be doing some grounding techniques and workshops and stuff for some of my survivors on my page. But even me as a professional, it's okay to not be okay. And I have to be okay with that too. So I'm actually, and then like leaning on your supportive networks. I have a lot of trauma therapist friends who are going to be helping me in supporting some of my supportive networks or my support groups, because I know for myself personally, I also need this support too. And I think that's okay to be able to say that.
Okay. Amber, do you know of any things that, because I know with the COVID-19, it's kind of getting hard to get appointments and stuff. What are you all doing to work around that? Are you doing teleconferences or things like that?
Yeah, I've been doing mental health since March. I haven't actually go back into the office on Monday. And so all of my sessions have been over the phone or on Zoom
Okay.
since COVID. I mean, I feel like it kind of takes away a little bit from the face-to-face interaction, but I mean, this is what we're working with right now for the I mean, as best as we could given the situation.
Mm-hmm.
Also, like with Kim, I do find that unplugging has been helpful. Not reading every single thing, not watching every single video, because it is re-traumatizing. And fortunately, I don't know, it's unfortunate, fortunately, because I do work with the older population, I'm not, a lot of my clients right now aren't triggered by what's going on in the media, partly because they don't really watch it or care for it. But I can't imagine having to balance my own traumas and trying to get myself together, because I'm not going to lie to you, today was a really, really rough day for me. But then also having to hear all your clients over and over and over explain or say their stories, then log on to social media because you're kind of like, I want to share this because I want other people to be informed, but then I don't want to share it because I know it'll be negative. And, you know, but it's so, well, I'm just going to share it. And then seeing everyone's post about, you know, their sexual trauma and what they're dealing with, it's all very heavy and a lot to take in right now.
I asked my therapist that one time. I said, "How do you do this? How do you sit here all day and listen to us like this?" She said she had her support system. That's pretty funny. But Ashley, let me ask you, what do you do? What do you do to kind of relieve your day after a day of hearing it? And I know y'all get calls after work too. So what do you do to relax? What do you do to get your stress out?
Balance. I'm honestly, it's been difficult more recently with all of the racial tension and trauma, and having to have a space for my Black clients and be a Black woman as well. That's been really difficult, more difficult lately. So I can completely understand the other ladies when they are saying you have to unplug. A lot of times I'm really protective about how much access I give to other people to me, you know, create really strong boundaries, a lot of self-care. And for me, self-care is not really like going to get a massage or getting your nails done, because those are things I actually just do. Self-care for me, I tie in my love language, which is acts of service. So anything I can have done for me to kind of like alleviate some of my responsibilities, it tends to relax me more. So that's really how I unwind, and just being okay with really, you know, like the other lady said, unplugging yourself, turning off the phone, not feeling obligated to watch everything or comment on everything and be everything to everyone else, when sometimes you genuinely just need to be the most you can to yourself. So that's pretty much it.
Thank you. You gave some helpful tips. If they can hear what you do, then maybe they can apply for their lives. Lisa jumped in. Let me go on Facebook. She said, for the people that have been sexually assaulted while in the military now have issues in civilian life. The people I know are use people. So yeah, they do. And and fellas, let me ask y'all this. Do you feel like it's way more easier and you feel more freer to get help now that you're out of the military than you did when you was in the military? And if have any of you tried to get help while you're in the military? Can you tell me what your experience was when you tried to get help?
So go ahead, Angel. Go ahead.
There's a stigma. You know, they'll say go seek legal help because the command pushes that narrative. But especially as an NCO, if they find out that you're going to go see your shrink, you know, they'll start like taking away certain details that you can that you had before, and well, we'll give this to Sergeant such and such because maybe this is too much for, you know, Sergeant whoever is going to go see somebody, and start hearing the whisper about that crazy, or they can't hack it and all that type of stuff. So that keeps the other people away from you know, seeking out help. I remember my very first deployment to Iraq. So we got back from OIF 1, and it was me and maybe like 6 of my battle buddies and one of the veterans was chilling. I think we had been back like one day. We want to actually go out, and the first sergeant comes into the room with a box of liquor, and he puts it down and he says, "They're going to tell y'all to go to the shrinks." He said, "Don't do that." And he said, "Your security clearance would be in jeopardy if you do." You know, he said, "Drink this, go to the red light district, you'll be all right."
Yeah.
He said that. My platoon sergeant said that. My squad leader said that. You know, my chief said that.
Wow.
So that was just the culture. So there was one dude that went to go see the shrink, and they bullied him and they shamed him so bad. You know what I'm saying, that he ended up like washing out. He was like, he left. You know what I'm saying? I think he went to another unit or he did something, but I think he got out the army, honestly. But it was real bad. So it wasn't until like later on, right after my 5th deployment, when it probably was way too late, all the damage was done, and I just didn't care what people would say or think because it was affecting my family. It was affecting me outside of the uniform. I couldn't sleep anymore. And really short fuse. That's when I started going, and it was very, very helpful. I think it caught me right at that cusp. Had I not gone when I did go, I might not be here right now. And I had a black female warrant officer, a CW2, and she was going, and she said, "Go. Somebody say something. I'll say something to them." And she outranked everybody. She says, "Somebody say something to you. I'm gonna say something to them. So go ahead." And I did. And I think it saved my life.
Yeah, bro. I'm glad you did.
Yeah, man.
I'm
So what I
glad
was going to say is,
to go, man.
Yeah, Rod, what I was going to say was real quick. I remember being in CSSG. They didn't call it the shrink or the psychiatrist. They call it the wizard, man. They're like, "Oh, he went to go see the wizard." So it's very negative that you
Yeah,
went to go get
I
mental help.
was there for that. I know what you're
Yeah,
saying.
so nobody wanted to go see the wizard. You know what I mean? So it's bad.
Yeah.
It's a lot easier now.
Did you want to add something, Kim?
Oh no, I was gonna say, with all this talk, I mean, I know I had some meetings with some veteran sisters today, and one of the things that came up was this hashtag, I'm Vanessa Guillen. For us as survivors, it's very difficult to continue seeing these stories. Like, I want to say, like, for self-care, like she said, healthy boundaries. We don't have to read these stories. Like, we know this problem exists, and we've known this for a long time. A lot of us advocates, and it's just kind of now becoming kind of like a trend or being like a hot topic right now in social media and on the television and stuff. But this has been an issue that we've been battling, a lot of us as advocates or mental health clinicians, for a really long time. And so for us, we don't have to keep reading the stories as survivors. We know they exist. So now it's like, what are we going to do to fix the problem now? And and how are we going to solve this problem? So I think that's where a lot of people are right now with that. But yeah, but there's a huge stigma with mental health, even with sexual trauma survivors coming forward to seek support in the service, even now with retaliation. And we kind of see this very like highlighted in this huge case right now.
Right. Go ahead, Courtney.
I don't.
So I wanted to ask the ladies of what they thought were their careers shortened by their experiences in the military, and what kind of effects that had on them going forward on their life after the military.
Yeah. I don't know. I mean, I can speak on that. I definitely cut my career short. I chose to get out of the service because I didn't feel safe. I didn't feel like I had safe spaces in the service. So I actively decided to get out. And I could have stayed in. I mean, I had an option to reenlist, but I was like, I'm done. I cannot be here anymore. So I got out. Yeah.
Amber, did that have some choice on your decision, whether you were going to stay in or get out?
Yeah, it did. So I'll try to be quick. So when I was in 9th Comm in Alpha Company, about to piss off a whole lot of people, Rod. I remember one day that was the EO came and wanted to know like what was going on in the unit, and I remember I was the only person that raised my hand, and I basically had told them that I was being sexually harassed by my platoon sergeant. Also, while I was on duty, a male Marine had pulled me into his room and was trying to rip my clothes off, but couldn't because of my duty belt and my duty binder. And the person that I had to report that to was the platoon sergeant that was sexually harassing me. And so immediately what happened within a week or so, I got fapped, and I kept moving to different units while I was in. And so it kind of made it hard to connect with other people because I was constantly having to be the new Marine there. And because of that, I felt like I couldn't really build a rapport with people. So then, being dual military and having kids in the military, it made it really difficult because I never could build a strong relationship with some of my fellow Marines at these FAP units. I just decided to get out because I felt like I wasn't making connections with anyone and wasn't making like a lot of real friends that I could lean on and depend on in the military. And I felt like a lot of that stemmed from feeling like I was being punished, like I wasn't allowed to deploy. I felt like I was targeted for like a lot of things because I chose to speak up. And of course, you know, the sergeant went on and did whatever. And the guy that had attacked me in the barracks, nothing happened to him. The sergeant that was harassing me said he would take care of it and not say anything. And so I definitely think that played a part in me deciding to get out and wanting to do something better and feeling like I was just in an environment that constantly kept me feeling low and unsafe, especially having to constantly see these men on base roaming around like nothing had happened.
Yeah, Candace Katrina on Facebook said, thank you for sharing that, Amber. She said that's why she left OCS and never went back. Let's see what Aaron, we actually got somebody watching from YouTube the first time. Oh God. One of the things is, Aaron, thank you, brother. One of the things about seeking care in the military was that even the docs were practicing a form of shaming when I was in. I remember being asked, don't you care about your career, by the doctor? Wow.
Yeah, I want to jump in. I saw that comment by him too, and I was thinking I had a similar experience, honestly. After my assault, I actually went and sought out support, and I was told by a mental health clinician. And we know, as mental health clinicians, you know, ethics is really important, integrity is really important. But he had told me that we don't want weak dogs in our army. That was his words. And he said, you know, if you continue on this behavior, or if you continue to display risky behaviors, we're going to label you as personality disorder. And I don't know if you know about personality disorders. That's kind of like an end all to your career. It's considered a pre-existing condition. So if a mental health clinician gives you a personality disorder, then you're immediately discharged, medical discharged, and you won't receive benefits through the Veteran Administration. So to kind of piggyback off what Amber said, sometimes administratively you can be retaliated against much easier than
bullshit.
Like being told, don't say anything, but they'll administratively, you know, put you in ASAP or discharge you from personality disorder, or med board you and things like that, or not let you go to promotion boards and stuff. So yeah, that's how retaliation usually looks like.
That's some boy.
Yeah.
That's harsh. Oh. Like, and you got that, and we got that from Aaron. I'm assuming Aaron's a guy, by the way he spells his name. And you hear that from Kim. That's two different people telling you that. That's crazy. And yeah, Amber, sorry, I had to put you on mute because
I actually was diagnosed with an adjustment disorder. When I was seeking treatment and going, they had said, "Oh, you know, you're having a hard time adjusting to military life." I'm like, I don't think anybody wants to, you know, adjust to hazing and being sexually harassed every freaking day at work when you're working from 6 a.m. to 6 p.m. That's a lot. I don't think why would that be an adjustment disorder instead of being a toxic environment, and you go after the people who are creating that environment?
Exactly.
It's so ingrained into the culture, though.
And that's a
culture. I was going to say, like, how the last step we're going to talk about this was, what do you think can be done to change the culture? I think the last commandant of the Marine Corps, after all those pictures got dropped on Facebook, I think his response was really well.
Yeah, about time.
I did really think he made a really good response. And then just looking in the comments, you could kind of see that it's the culture, bro. It's the society. Like, what is going on? But like, these dudes were going nuts. Like, he did something wrong in the comment sections.
I think, honestly, we're going to have to get a third party into handling cases like this. The victim advocate, whoever they're reporting to, all the way down to the equal opportunity officers, they cannot be active duty service members, and they cannot be a part of that unit, or they have to be completely their own separate unit, not a billet within a unit. I feel like that's one, and kind of have a whole separate investigation team just for that. That is completely separate from the unit, because little did I know, here I am, little PFC, and I'm telling the EO officer whose husband, and mind you, I find this out later, whose husband is best friends with the guy that's sexually harassing me. So
Wow.
it's like, yeah. So I feel like it needs to be a third party where it's just completely disconnected from the units, even if it's a whole civilian entity, the FBI or somebody, but not these billets that they give us. And then, oh, now, Rod, you're the victim advocate, or now, Amber, you're the EO opportunity officer. I don't think that's helping.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And then they
They
had
do
the,
put on people.
I was gonna say in Fort Hood, just in 2005, the Sexual Harassment Prevention NCO IC, the person who was in charge of that program, was in trouble for prostitution and prostituting young, vulnerable soldiers to like high-ranking officers on base. So, I mean, like when you put people in a position like that, of course, it's going to be a problem with corruption. It's going to be a problem with, if you have all the investigation happening internally and you have people like that in charge, then I mean, it's already going to be an issue.
It's like the police investigating the police.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Internal affairs investigating them. So yeah, it is. So Simone said it's like the victims are viewed as the villain. That seemed to be across the board. That's like civilian world. Sometimes you hear that, and now in the military it's even worse because you have that inner gun club within a gun club. Like Amber just said, you find out somebody's best friends with somebody that you already haven't been. You never notice stuff until probably sometimes after you get out. You don't find out this stuff till after you get out. I mean, there was all kinds of shady stuff. Or you got something to say, Stu?
Yeah, I was going to piggyback on what Amber was saying. If you're going to have an outside entity that's going to be doing it, they can't be on the payroll either. So you can't have a contract with the base because you got incentives within that contract, and you give people a reason to skew numbers too. It has to be someone like the FBI or OIG that works in DC that send people out. It has to be somebody totally separate, or you're always going to have those blurred lines. And the second thing I was going to say, I pulled down some more stats. Around 60% of the perpetrators were higher ranking, and like 24% was like people in the chain of command. Just like they do in the federal government, something Trump did well. He allowed senior executives to be fired, and be held accountable. You have to change that culture in the military because a lot of these colonels and sergeant majors, and they can just drop papers and retire, don't get in trouble. So you have to change that culture that the high-ranking people who are preying on folks, they can be held accountable. They can lose everything on the spot. So that's not happening right now.
And I think even to go even further than that, like just with sexual harassment, like I do EEO now in the civilian sector, and we have zero tolerance policies. We don't have those in the military. So you can sexually harass somebody and just get a slap on the wrist, maybe not even that, and just continue on with your career. Meanwhile, the soldiers who are being harassed, their career might be over, or they might be internalizing this behavior. And then who knows what kind of coping skills they're getting, because when you have alcohol as the main coping tool in the military, it's just a whole, problem in and of itself there. I think even going further with culture, not just accountability, but it's like a toxic masculinity. That's one of the problems with military culture, is that patriarch style when even men are looked at as feminine and can be preyed on as weak and get harassed. Because things like calling people, the B word, I don't know if I'm allowed to say that stuff here, but that, my civilian job, I would get fired for that. But in the military, like you can call another male soldier, male on male, something like that, and be okay with that. And that's like accepted culture, even for females. And I know a lot of people on my page kind of talk about females being in on some of this bullying or some of this behaviors. But I honestly feel like that's almost like a survival technique for a lot of females to be engaging in that type of behavior too, because they don't want to look like they're, not a team player or not part of the team. So yeah, even females can contribute to that behavior as well. Wow. So across the board, things like that needs to be addressed.
Okay. I want to read this paragraph Ashley just wrote, because she wrote a paragraph, so she really wrote it. Hey, Ashley, thank you for joining us. I'm not trying to make fun of you. I'm going to read exactly what you said. I am active duty airman and experienced a tremendous amount of loss in a short period of time. My military one source counselor recommended I see mental health because she felt I was depressed. I wasn't sleeping. I was withdrawing from things I love, having nightmares. I went to mental health. and psychologist rushed me through my appointment, just said okay when I described what was going on, and asked me what did I think we should do. He made me feel as if I only matter or good. She didn't get to finish the last word. Good to get hurt. I don't know what the last part said. That really doesn't sound like a very fun experience. Sorry you had to experience that, Ashley, and thank you for sharing that with us. I don't really know what recommendations to give her, to be honest with you. Anybody had any recommendations for her?
Well, you can, I don't know really how the platform looks on Facebook, but Ashley, you can definitely reach out to me or one of the other ladies, and we can try to find you a better clinician. Or if you, I know for myself, if you want to talk with me, my line is always open. Just shoot me a message and
What's
I
your,
will connect with you.
you want me? Can I share your email in the chats?
Yeah, you can share my email and my
Number.
name on Facebook, or Instagram is
Okay.
classy_Mbina.
Okay.
And then
All right.
also,
So
Ashley, reach out. I have a support group for female veterans, and we also have active duty service members in my support group. So if you ever wanted to jump in there, I have it pretty hidden. It's kind of private, but I allow people in, like, a little bit here and there. But it's really supportive for active duty and veterans.
okay.
Add me too, Kim.
Yeah, definitely.
Okay, that's great. That's great. So Ashley, I hope you heard that. Definitely give them a call. Or give them, reach out to them so you can get the help that you need. I hate that. That's crazy, bro. That these people are chat that you go to get some help and they talk trash to you. Wow.
That's why probably third party would be best, I think.
Well, they're passing like a Brandon's Act. I don't know if anyone's heard of that. Have you heard of that? It was an individual who was, I want to say he was Navy, but I'm not sure. He had completed suicide, and so they're passing a legislation, or they're working to pass legislation to get that to be outsourced, so that if you feel like you're going to be retaliated against by the command, you can just say Brandon's Act, and they'll get you an outside support, so that the command can't see what it is that you're getting support for. I mean, I know that's controversial. Some people feel like that's bad for deployment readiness, but on the other hand, if you are afraid of toxic leadership and you're afraid of retaliation, I think that's really important to be able to get a third party involved.
Okay. All right, great. We're gonna go ahead and move on to our next subject. This subject really went on a lot longer because it was
we got to have another one of these. I think this is a topic that needs to be hit.
Yeah,
we recurring. Yeah.
We got to reoccur this one because there's so many stories and we're actually getting a lot of participation. I didn't see any calls, I don't think. Nope, I didn't see, unless they hung up when I wasn't paying attention. But we'll move on. We try to spend some very small time on this one. We just want to hear the women's input. Fellas may ask some questions. So we've been going through this subject of we've been hearing that Black women, for a long time. This ain't something new, but it's been getting up heavily that Black women feel unprotected by Black men. And the typical response from most Black men is to get defensive, and it starts an argument between back and forth because a lot of us feel like, hey, we got our daughters, we got our moms, we got our wives, we got the people that we protect. We don't know what you're talking about. So at this point, we're trying to get to the point to where we can hear what you're saying, what women are saying to us. And that way we can open the door for more conversation and maybe more healing. And maybe it could take one of those, the 100 things that we bicker back and forth off the table. Okay. So Ashley, you've been kind of quiet. What's your feelings on this? Like, how do you feel about this? Do you feel like you're protected by Black men or the Black men in your life or in general? And if you don't, or if you do, can you give us the reasons why?
Of course. I've kind of been pondering on this question because I knew that I had to speak on it today. So I'll do my best. I think, number one, we don't even have enough time to kind of get into how complex this is to me. As far as my circle and my family, I feel protected by Black men. Generationally, in my family, a lot of Black men raise the children. So there's that. I have a lot of Black friends, Black male colleagues that, protect me when it comes to just like spiritually, mentally, have been there for me. I do think that for me, with all of the racial tension and the back and forth, I kind of hate really contributing to these different narratives that so easily get passed around, and they kind of overshadow the Black men that are actually out here supporting Black women and vice versa. I think where it kind of stems from is just when a Black man dies or has received some type of injustice and we see it in the media, a lot of women come forth no matter what. When it happens to be a Black woman, it almost sometimes seems as if some Black men feel that they have to determine the worth of that woman first before they will speak up about it. Again, I am not the person that likes to continue to contribute to, certain agendas that I believe are out there. And so I have personally experienced, and I know I'm probably jumping all over the place, but I have personally experienced protection from Black men physically, mentally, but I do know that, and I do recognize that a lot of Black women don't feel that and may not have lived the same experience as me. And I don't feel like I'm the spokesperson for Black women so that I could just, overall say, yeah, we are, or no, we're not. But I can say that when I look on social media, when I go to events, I see Black women talking a lot about supporting Black men. I don't always see that for Black women. And then when I do, sometimes it seems as if there has to be a measure. There's standards that you have to meet as that Black woman before you'll be supported.
All right. Thank you for that input. All
You're
right,
welcome.
So I'm glad that you have a group of Black men around you.
I do.
Look at you over there smiling.
Hey, man,
Over there smiling. All right, that's cool. All right, Amber, you want to throw in some thoughts on this?
So, same with Ashley. Can I do shout outs? Is that okay? Can you hear me?
Yeah, go ahead. Do your thoughts.
Oh, about this, I was thinking about it too. So, shout out to my brother, Rudy, my cousin, Raphael, phenomenal fathers, always make me feel protected. My dad as well. I think the issue isn't so much of our individual circles, because in my circle with some of my cousins and my brother, I feel protected, I feel heard, I feel honored. I think more so as a whole, in the Black community, you don't see a lot of Black men sticking up for Black women, as Ashley had mentioned. And I do feel like out of all the races, Black women are the only ones that have to wonder if Black men are attracted to them, want to date them, find value in them. I've gone to so many places, and never in my mind did I think, like, I see certain people, it's like, oh, well, is this person going to think I'm good enough, I'm pretty enough, educated enough? It's, oh, he probably doesn't date Black girls, or she doesn't date Black women, or whatever the case may be. And so I feel like that's kind of where it comes in too, because you see so many times online and in certain conversations, a lot of Black men downing Black women. And it's like, if you want to date other races, you want to see other people, you have your preference, that's fine. But why do you have to put down Black women in the process? Like, you don't really see that in other communities. If a Hispanic man, white male, Asian male want to date other races, they're not putting down their women in order to do so, and to, I guess, as a form of acceptance and wanting to date outside of their race, as you do see with Black males. And I'm going to tell you something too. I've never been told I wasn't good enough, or that I would look better if I was light complected, or that I was too Black, or a Black bitch, or whatever the case, by any other male but a Black man. And that also plays into role. My first marriage, I was in an interracial relationship, and the Black men that were around that witnessed that, they were upset and mad about it. But it was like, but you guys don't even like me. You don't give me the time of day. And I see that all the time in the communities. And honestly, I talk a lot about my son. My son is one of those, and I had to really break it down to him and talk to him about his way of thinking and his understand why he had his certain preferences. And then he had finally told me, he's like, Mom, how you carry yourself and how you act is the only reason why I would even consider dating a Black woman. He has a whole Black chocolatey mama, and he still felt that way. And he couldn't tell me why he felt that way about Black women, but just the fact that I was one of the women in his life that was helping him keep his option open is if he decided to date a Black woman. And I don't know where that way of thinking came from or whatnot. And so I really feel like when Black women are talking about that they don't feel protected, I think that is pretty much along the lines as well. And two, like Ashley had said, we are always out there advocating, standing in the crossfire for our Black men, but rarely do we see that. And then when we do see it, it's like, oh my God, really like rare. Like, wow, he said that he loves Black women. He made this post only about Black women. And it like blows up on this thing because it's not common. And that's sad that it has to be. When you meet a Black man that's pro-Black for Black women, that it's rare. Because you're not seeing that with other men of different races.
Hold on, Courtney. I got to unmute you. Hold on, buddy. Where you at? All right, Courtney, you got a question?
I have actually heard that from a lot of sisters. I'm from the Memphis area, so everyone knows that's like a mostly Black and white area. My first time getting really out of that area was coming to San Antonio and then hopping to DC and Germany. In Germany, brothers were chasing the German women and all the other ethnicities that were over there. So a lot of Black women felt that the brothers weren't over there interested in them. And then the same thing happened when I went to El Paso, because it seemed like a lot of the brothers were more focused on the Latino women, the Mexican women. And then you come to San Antonio and you kind of hear the same stories. And I'm thinking, well, it's a lot of brothers out here that like you, but I guess maybe it's just that the numbers, because there is a lot less of us, a fewer amount of us than it is Black women. So maybe that just throws it off.
Maybe.
I don't know.
I used
that
to
is something I
say that.
see.
I've heard that from women that I talk to. Like they say, like, "Wow, we're surprised that you're interested in Black women." Like, really? Like, I don't know.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
it's a
Yeah,
real-
it's shocking, honestly.
Thank you.
It is.
Shocking.
They're like really,
you kind of going into like a.
really take interest. It's like, wow, like
We were
you're a
actually
Black
that's
woman.
going to
Are
be a
you
subject
only
coming
like
up.
Black women, or you're on a mission to only date Black women? It's just like, wow, are you serious? Oh, okay. And it shouldn't be like that, because ain't nobody else looking at a Hispanic guy is like, oh, I'm only dating my Latin women or my Latinas. No one thinks or says anything because it's not uncommon versus with Black males. And it's it's sad. But like I said, I've never, recently last year, I experienced a white racist male, but growing up and probably until I got about 30, Black men were not really that interested in me.
Wow.
Yeah.
What's
But
up,
they
man?
all had something to say dating outside your race or women.
Yeah, I get that. I get that. All right, Kim, you're on the hot seat. It's your time to give us your thoughts. Did I mic you? Sorry. Hold on.
You muted.
There we
No,
go.
I muted myself and you muted me. I think it's hard for me to honestly engage in this conversation just because I'm multiracial, but I don't present as as Black. So I think I don't even want to like put my 2 cents in that conversation with that. But I do agree with Amber when it comes to, I think they're microaggressions and micro like biases and stereotypes. They're really I guess I want to say like enforced or what's it called when they're like heavily you know what I'm talking about? Like, yeah, they're like what's it called? When like you see it often in social media and the TV shows and like just historically wise, you see this like agenda pushing or like like stereotypes, right, when it comes to that. So I think that that's what she said is completely relevant. But yeah, but I don't even have a thought on that. I don't want to speak.
Okay. I just want to give you a chance if you want to say that or not. That's cool. Amber, what you brought up, we actually thinking about maybe one of these weeks having it as a subject. Because I mean, we were going back and forth about if interracial relationships is that big of a deal, if it's important. But you know, my push was in our eyes, we see it statistically as a small thing, but in the light of things, it's actually a really big deal. It's a really big deal. That's the whole reason why it keeps coming up as a subject, because of things like what you just said, Amber, about what happens when what a black woman sees as she's coming up. So I think we're gonna bring that back. We are.
Mm-hmm.
So go ahead, Courtney. You have something to say?
No, she was muted. She was.
Amber, did you have something to say, Amber, on that?
Oh, I was gonna say, I think, like I said, my previous marriage, I was in an interracial relationship. I don't think I'm not gonna speak for all Black women, but I know for me, it's not an issue if you want to be in an interracial relationship. I believe love is love. It's fine, but it becomes an issue when you need to degrade your own people.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And put on a pedestal another race or ethnicity in the process of doing so. Like, it's fine. Love your white woman. Treat her well. That's good. But in the midst of it, you don't have to sit here and talk about my hair being nappy, or you don't want Black kids, or whatever the case may be. And we see that all the time. And I think that's where it comes in. And then you see in the comments, oh, they're just mad because we don't want to date a Black woman. No, we're not mad. That's fine. Stay over there, but you don't have to tear us down in the process of it.
Okay.
I think it's up to us groups
Can I
to
ask a
call
question?
them out, though.
Yeah, I was just about to say the same thing Courtney said. What I found that I don't even want to go because I want to save it for the next topic. You have certain demographics where that mentality comes from, and I'm gonna say certain types, but certain groups. So, can you just elaborate on that? What certain types of demographics of Black males did you hear that from, or what age groups, or was it a certain part of the country, or just overall for you?
Well, so I'm originally from California, and like I said, I feel like as a whole, I've gotten more attention from Black men in my 30s. And so I don't know if it's because they're aging. So we're all getting older and a little more wise, and our ignorant flag is dropping. But honestly, like across the board. But I do recognize it was from the younger males. But I also realized when I put myself in certain circles and situations, like the type of people I associate with now, when I go into a place, it's all nothing but love from Black men that are in my circle that I'm around. But again, as a whole, I'm seeing it all over the place. And so that hasn't happened to me in probably about 5-6 years.
I will say, I know, Amber, you grew up in the San Jose area, right?
Mm-hmm. Bay
More,
Area.
it's from living out in San Jose, from some of my coworkers and some of the people that I met, the Black guys, is really no in between. You got the ones that really are all about Black people, and then you got the whitewash ones. And the whitewash,
What does that mean?
the whitewash ones that got that mentality that they don't want to be with a Black woman. I've had arguments with coworkers. They tell me straight up, I don't want to, and these are Black dudes. I don't want to. I'm like, dude, you grew up in San Jose. Something wrong with you.
Yeah.
You've been dropped on your head.
And the crazy thing is the shit that they complaining about, they getting ran through the works by these white women doing the same exact shit. I be like, really?
Well, listen, I got some white girlfriends. They don't take no shit. So I don't know where all this stigma is coming from at all. I feel like they're targeting certain women of races that are submissive, because I know a lot of women that are not of color, that's not taking no mess. They're gonna, stand their ground and demand respect. And I feel like part of the agenda is Black women are aggressive, or we don't listen, we're always argumentative, and that's why they don't want to date us. But really,
that's everyone.
That's not the case.
Bro, I try to tell people that.
I was about to say the same thing. It's everybody.
People always try to say Japanese girls are submissive. No,
you're dating a submissive person, not because she's white. Because like I said, I have some friends, they're not going to go for no type of mess. So
We
it's
got
the type of women they're also going after.
We got a Facebook comment from Jessica Elizabeth. She said, when I was a teenager, I had an instance when an uncle of mine through marriage told me white women were better than black women. The conversation came out of nowhere. My uncle was an adult telling a child that she wasn't as valued as a black woman. It was confusing and surprising to hear someone who came from a black woman that also married a black woman say we as a whole are not valued. It's like, huh?
Why would you tell that to a child?
What's your uncle
The
drinking?
same
Was he
thing
on that
happened
Bud
to
Light?
Jessica.
Drunk shit.
Yeah.
The same thing
Crazy.
happened to me.
Goddamn
Same
Bud
thing.
Light.
Hey, he on that Bud Light of Milwaukee Best. What the
And I
hell?
think that's the dangerous thing because, you know, especially as a
same
teen, you going up through that, you get rejected. Because I hear it from black men. I heard it from RG3. Same stuff, same shit. So when you hear that as a young person growing up, I guess it could, you know, damage you for a long time.
And they can
You know.
make they do the unprotected feelings, make you feel like they don't care about you, they don't value you. And oh, she said her uncle was very sober. Woo, man, your uncle needs some help.
God damn.
Ask her where she's from. Where she's from. Curious.
Yeah, Jessica, they're asking where's your uncle from, like what area. You don't really.
I'm
have to
all
say
about like
his name,
demographics,
just,
man. I
like,
try to
New
figure
York.
out where mindsets and how you was raised. It's crazy.
He's from Texas.
Texas.
You're probably from Mississippi, Alabama.
No,
I actually heard the same thing too. I was outside and it was a group of black men that had came over to hang out with my dad, and they were outside of the window and they were talking about how Hispanic women's where it's at.
Oh man.
He's from Alabama. Hey, Steve, ain't that where you from?
Where you from,
Alabama.
Oh man. Okay. Man.
He from Anniston.
No, yeah. I do have a question though for Amber, since you was vocal about it. I got a question. So, do you believe? Well, I kind of asked you to be unbiased about it. If you heard one person totally degrade a black woman, you have 20 guys who praise a black woman, but that one person who degraded it carried so much weight that you just cancel out the 20. Could that be possible? That happens?
No, I don't think so. However, for every negative comment, you do have to fill your cup up more with positive. But I'm not saying, like I said, I feel like the black men that I know, I feel protected by. But that comment did stay with me. I had to be no more than 8th grade, and I still remember that. I'm almost 40 now.
That's why.
So it's just like, you know, that's ingrained in my head. I remember that, you know.
That's whack.
So.
Yeah.
Can I say something real quick?
Go ahead.
To go with what Stu was saying. You know, I think it's part of the problem, that mentality of the people that have that mentality, the not all black men, you know, and they use that as the response to, you know, black men don't protect black women. And then their response is not all black men. That's not helping. You know, the thing is, I think we're all born with a certain filter because of our gender. Men are born with a certain filter, women are born with a certain filter. You have to actively and intentionally peel that filter back to see the other side and not just see your side. And I think a lot of times as men, we just see our side because we automatically believe that everything that we say is logical and everything that women say is based on emotion. And that's not true at all. You know, so it doesn't matter if one man said and 20 men said the opposite. If one of those 20 men didn't check the one man that said it,
That's true too.
you know what I'm saying? If they let him continue to spew that toxic rhetoric, that just is bad. You know, and I think that we're not, protection goes further than, you know, protection from physical abuse or anything like that. Protection is also defending their honor, defending their name, defending their value and everything like that. And we forget about that. So, you know, when you see a brother, you know, putting down a black, well, I only date white girls for, you know, this, you need to say something to him. You need to say something to him.
Yeah.
Robert, why don't you elaborate a little bit? He said nobody is born with a filter. People are raised and conditioned to have a filter.
Yo,
I believe that.
I feel that latter half of the statement. Yeah.
Yeah, Angel, and you're right. I don't want to say this guy's name on air, but we talk about him a lot. A lot of times, I've been cussed out a lot for like standing up. Robert called me the first black feminist he ever met. right? As a man. So I actually speak out against dudes, man. You know, posting memes with the derogatory pictures, all that kind of stuff. People tell me to lighten up. It's just a joke. Or then I have other people coming in. But man, you have a lot of guys who will go the extra mile to keep pushing that kind of stuff, man. And then it takes one person to speak up. You just kind of get drowned out by the crowd. You know what I mean? Especially, and I don't mean this in a bad way when I say it, but it happens. Especially you have female friends of those people who sees it as a joke. So it doesn't matter if I speak up and say, this meme is fucked up. You shouldn't be doing that. And the women tell me, chill out. And it's a joke, but it's not, because it's pushing a message about our women. So I think as a whole, we have to, if somebody stands up for you, you got to kind of have my back, you know? So that doesn't happen a lot too, but I didn't say that to try to take away from the what you were saying. I was just putting that out there that does happen. Like Angel said, we have to stand up to that type of stuff. But when we stand up, other brothers have to join in and to shut it down. You just have to shut it down. And I complain about a lot of stuff.
Honestly, I just don't want them folks in my circle. So I
don't either. I didn't delete.
I don't
see them anymore.
Yeah, like that take that energy somewhere else. You know what I mean? Like, that's not what we're doing over here.
And sometimes I can come off as ignorant, and I know it, because everybody here knows I'm always complaining about stuff, man. They tell me to shut up all the time, right? So, but I do short my circle, and I don't follow certain stuff. So I don't think it's as big as it is because I don't follow it.
Yeah,
and I know.
I don't even have that ignorant shit coming down my timeline. Like,
I don't see it.
Not even on my timeline. When we having those conversations in the group chat and y'all keep posting shit like that, like, why do y'all still like delete that shit? Like, I don't want to.
But a lot of it's coming from women that have experienced that. We might not see the men that are doing it, but the women that are experiencing it are telling that story.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying, Andrew.
You know, I might not have too many dudes that I know personally that think that way. Now, when I go into some certain groups or I go into somebody else's thread, and I'll see it then. But on my personal timeline, with my friends, it's the stories that the Black women are saying that they have experienced with Black men, or how they're treated by Black men, what Black women are saying about them in comparison to other women of other races. That's what I'm saying. So I can't delete them for experiencing what they're experiencing, and I can't dismiss or diminish.
No, I'm not saying delete the women, but like, I don't really see that shit coming down my timeline. Like, I might see a woman post and it might be a conversation, but I like all the ignorant shit that, like, some of the shit that Stonky shares in the group, like, that stuff doesn't come down my timeline.
Yeah.
That's why we all be confused when Stonky share that shit.
Yeah, I do have one more question, because I know I'm long way. I got one question to Amber or Ashley, you two, or Ken, whatever. What can we do to curb this? Especially if we're not seeing it, but we're hearing it. I don't have access to a lot of those people. And the things I put out, I do kind of, like, respect women, period. You know what I mean? But we don't see those things. I'm not on the street with you. You know what I mean? But if I'm in a group, I would say something. If I see a post, I would say something on social media. So what can we do as men to curb those issues?
Oh, Amber. Hold on, Amber. Hold on. Go ahead.
Sorry. So, I feel conflicted sometimes with the quickly blocking and deleting people, because how I think Courtney had said, if someone's posting some trash or whatever, just delete. But when sometimes that's an opportunity for you to go in and police your own. And so we can't do that if we're constantly removing ourselves. But it's kind of like a catch-22, because I know for self-care, some things I don't want to see, especially with, all the racism and the rioting and the protesting going on. I'm so tired of educating people on racism and oppression and all those things. But then at the same time, I feel like I have to keep doing it until someone is going to get it. It might not be the person that I'm talking to, but it might be someone that's reading the thread. And so that's why I'm saying, it's kind of, you're teeter-tottering in the middle. And so if you're constantly removing yourself from those situations, then there's an opportunity is missed for you to police your own. And so I would just say, when you do see it, say something. Or just the fact, if you're posting positive affirmations for Black women, so many times I've seen posts from there was a thread going on last month. It was a thread about Black men. All they did was comment on the things that they liked about Black women, and it got so many positive things. And I feel like just constantly affirming Black women as a whole, not just like one particular person, but letting Black women know that you're a safe place, that you're not one of the people they have to wonder if you care about them, if you care about their Blackness, because it takes away from, oh, you know, I'm just a woman, but do you care about me because I'm Black first in that Black man's eyes, not just a beautiful woman that's worthy of your security. And so I definitely think that would be a start, policing each other and affirming Black women.
Okay. Well, Kim had to go take care of some things, and she does have her she got her podcast coming up. Everybody that was listening on Blog Talk Radio, we're about to end the Blog Talk Radio call. The live feed is going to be on Blog Talk Radio /DBGINC. The same thing with Facebook at facebook.com/DBGINC. Thank you for tuning in. All right, guys, we are at the end of the Blog Talk Radio show. I think we had some really good conversation going. Too bad we're actually going a little bit too long. I know everybody has things to do. Ashley, and Amber, we really, really, really thank you so much for coming.
Thanks for having me.
That was dope. That was pretty. We got to do that.
Yeah.
Yeah, we definitely got to have you back on. Ashley, you feel a little better now about coming on camera?
Yeah.
What about you, Amber? You feel a little bit better now?
Yeah, I feel a little better. I was nervous. I almost flaked on you like 5 times. I ain't even gonna lie. I'm not doing this. Why ask me this? They want to send these long old articles. Ain't nobody got time. I was like, I'm not gonna lie. I told my friend, I'm like, I kind of want to flake, but I'm not gonna flake because I care about him, and he asked me to do it.
Oh, I'm glad you didn't flake. Go ahead, Juan. What you got to say, buddy?
I just want to say something real quick for one of the earlier topics we were talking on. If you feel like your command or somebody in your chain of command is sweeping like attempted sexual assault or something like that up under the rug, go to the sheriff's office, file a report. Doesn't matter if it happened on base or off base. They will take action. Then it gets taken out of the commands all up in his little try to protect somebody. Another thing is if a sexual assault does occur, go to the sheriff's office, go to the hospital, get a specimen kit, a rape kit done, and just specify if you don't feel at that point in time that you want to file charges or they can save it. And then later on, when you're feeling more confident about it, the evidence is collected and it's saved and the DNA is there so they can get a prosecution for it. But take the power out of your chain of command's hands if you don't feel everybody's got a boss. Take it out of their hands if you don't feel that you're getting a result that warrants your dignity as a human being. Go to your sheriff's office, file it, and I guarantee you, even if it takes the sheriff himself having to have a face-to-face with the base commander, there's going to be people answering for it.
Okay. I didn't know you could do that. Honestly.
Yeah, I don't think people even think about that.
It keeps people from, like, you know, how everybody knows everybody in the military. It keeps people from protecting their little cohorts and their cronies and shit, or stuff like that.
Wow, there's shit like that. I don't care. I'm saying.
Yeah.
All right. Once again, like I said, thank you, ladies, so much. We appreciate it. The recording, if you want to listen to the recording, it is, like I tell everybody, it's on the Blog Talk Radio. And it's also, you can download it from Blog Talk Radio, and you can also share it from our Facebook and YouTube page. So we're going to start coming out with clips. So we may start taking out, this will be an episode. We'll start taking out clips on it. So you might see your face pop up on one of our booths. Okay.
I'm already seeing compliments. So I think this was a good show.
Yeah, I think this was a really
It was a great show, man.
We got 2 hours to climb through so we can make some trade. Thank you, fellas. I love you. Thank you so much. You guys always come through.
Sweet.
So much coming through. Love you. No homo. But
we gotta stop that negative culture, man. We can love each other, bro.
Yes, you can.
Love each
I
other.
like that.
Yeah, we can tell each other, man. But all right, y'all have a wonderful night. Thank you for everyone who joined in on the comments. If I didn't get to your comment, I'm sorry. For people that's listening, like you said, share the video, like it and share. Thank you, Robert. That's one of our brothers too. We love you too, man. Thank you for showing up. Y'all have a good night. All right.
All right, bro.
Stay safe, y'all.